We are very lucky today with all these amazing creators and their first-hand experiences. And next we're going to have another successful artist, Dave Krugman. And he's going to tell us about community building. But before he comes on stage, I'm going to tell you a little secret about him. So he's known for his visual arts, but also he's actually a poet. And the title of this presentation can actually, tell you about it. It's NFTs as a capture mechanism for community capital. I think it's quite a poetic name for a presentation. Welcome, Dave, and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to talk about some things that I've been working on lately. I'm very excited about everything that's happening in the blockchain space, especially in regards to artists and artists who build community. So the title of my presentation is NFTs as a capture mechanism for community capital. And it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. But really my point is that I really truly believe that all value in the world is rooted in community systems, whether it's one person with one other person or massive communities the size of countries. There's really the purpose of any token, whether it's money or newer tokens that we're building, is as a medium of exchange for community favors and to kind of strengthen the inner bonds of community. So today I'm going to take you through how I've used photography to build communities and build value for the communities that I'm curating. So without further ado, I'll begin. Let's see here. So I'm first going to talk about something that's not strictly my art, but is something that I've been building for a long time. If you want to follow along on your phone, by the way, you can go to allships.co. This QR code will also take you to our Twitter. But if you look at the website, it'll make a lot more sense what I'm describing. So yeah, again, allships.co. So Allships is a kind of rebellion against everything I don't like about Web 2 and social media, the juggernauts that kind of dominate our entire global conversation right now. One of my biggest frustrations as an artist who made their living on Instagram for a decade is that I felt like I was constantly building on land that I didn't own. We're kind of renting land and renting our identities from people that whose intentions are not necessarily aligned with our own. And just to be a little more specific about that, I spent every single day for a long time building up this following, right, on Instagram and other platforms. And one little change in that global algorithm can undo years of work. And you don't really own the access that you think you own to the communities that you've built up. So I think one of the promises of these new layers of technology is that we can build on land we own. So Allships is kind of a space that I created for my creative communities in order for us to avoid a lot of the pitfalls of social media, and so that the effort we put into building our communities can be maintained as opposed to lost to this algorithmic narrowing of our perspectives. The name Allships is about, I think, as technology expands the fertile ground on which we can build, there's more space for everyone, and all ships rise with the tide. So as we grow and we thrive, we can bring a lot of people along with us, and that's kind of the ethos behind everything there. I want to prove to artists, especially younger artists, that a creative life is possible. And again, as we become more and more visual and more visually literate, we all have cameras in our pockets and screens to display an infinite stream of art. There's a lot more room for creativity. And so there's never been a better time to be a creative, and Allships is kind of my platform in which to prove that. And lastly, about Allships, one more thing is that I'm finding that Web3 is a better place to build identity for community builders because of all the things that I just said about social media as well. This just seems like a more sovereign place for artists to be. So this is our site. It's kind of an editorial. I think I can hit play here. Oh yeah. So this is it's an editorial website. We throw huge events all over the world. We just want to bring people together and elevate every one of these people, you might recognize some of these names, is an artist who's doing really cool things in the NFT and Web3 space. So we have this editorial website, we throw events, we have a podcast, and every layer of content and community engagement we're trying to build here. We also recently have kind of made this a more Web3 experience where we have a token-gated merch store where you can hold certain NFTs and get discounts. And I also just did my latest drip drop, which I'll get into in a moment, on this website as well. So just trying to build a community for artists by artists is really, really important to me when we're talking about building communities. So yeah, do join us on the website and join our Discord as well. One of the things we're doing is kind of world building. I'm trying to build like an entire universe around the All Ships brand, and in order to kind of propagate that ethos of all ships rise with the tide, we're using NFT sales to commission artists and try to elevate as many people as possible. And the other thing that's important for me about All Ships is I've been building in internet communities for my whole life, and one thing that's always been really important is stuff like this, like getting together in real life and actually meeting each other. And that to me is like the rebar and the concrete, and it really helps reinforce communities in a way that they can be much longer lasting. So one of the things that we try to do at All Ships is we do events. I don't know if anyone's been to New York and Brooklyn, but we have a partnership with Roberta's Pizza, which is this really fun pizza spot. And, all right, let's go. And just last week, we had like 150 people there, open bar, free pizza for everyone. And it was right after NFT NYC, and it was this kind of beautiful celebration of the in real life community that then, when we all go back to our homes in different countries, we have a much stronger community because we all met up in person. That's really important to the All Ships ecosystem as well. So here's a shot from one of those days, and you can just see like the joy and smiles on everybody's face when we build creative communities that are based on uplifting everybody and just being open and inclusive of everyone as well. So yeah, seeing this makes me really happy here. So now I'm gonna shift a little bit. If anyone has questions about All Ships, I think I'm gonna open up a little Q&A in a bit, but I want to talk about using NFTs as a way to strengthen like the inner bonds of creative communities. So I did a project called Drive. Again, this QR code will just take you to the OpenSea page if you want to like see what we've been building. Drive is a collection of 111 vehicles. It's all street photographs I took. I actually took the entire project over 10 years, all shot on iPhone. And the reason I kind of led with this in my NFT career was because it's important to me to show that you don't have to spend a lot of money to make good art. And so I really wanted to lead with an iPhone project so that anybody with a phone can understand that they can come up with these ideas and build community around them as well. The reason I'm bringing up Drive today is because I was able to kind of learn from things I saw in the NFT space and use NFTs as incentive tokens in order to strengthen the inner bonds of a community. So I sold 91 cars on auction, like a used car salesman. And then I decided that I was going to take the craziest looking cars and I was going to hold them back in my garage. And the only way that you could access those tokens was to hold one of the cars, and then you had to race me in these creative challenges on Twitter. I've done a bunch of different creative challenges, but I think my favorite example is I would say to my holders, hey, if you hold a Drive car, you can go out in your environment, find a car that fits the meme, and then you post it in the race thread. And as a community, we're going to vote on which one fits the best, and then I'll airdrop one of those trophy tokens, a trophy car, to you, almost like we were drag racing and you won my car off of me, right? So I thought it would be a fun idea, but I didn't realize how powerful this would be. So because I have this like community treasury, and I've only released 5 out of 20, so I still have 15 of these things left. I have 15 more opportunities to align incentives within my communities. We could do a charity fundraising challenge. We could there's just an infinity of ideas in front of us about how to use these tokens to motivate people to either act creatively or really just do anything. And what's cool about it is as the project thrives and grows and more people hear about it, this incentive becomes more and more attractive because, for example, the floor on Drive right now is 5 ETH. So like each one of these tokens now is like a pretty strong incentive for people to participate. So every time we do a race, the interest grows and that helps the project, and then the incentives become more and more powerful and we can do more and more. So I like to use Drive as an example of how to use NFTs to add value and incentivize and align incentives in your communities. So I think I covered everything on that slide, but I guess the last thing I'll say is that a strong community united in purpose is very valuable. And that's really the thing that builds community is aligned incentives. So here's the entire collection. So all the cars north of the bottom line are the ones that were on sale. Then there was 8 grails, which were on auction. The highest auction went for I think 25 ETH, and then which helped really boost the entire collection because it gave this perceived value to the community that these things are worth something. And then the entire bottom line here is all the trophy cars. So you can see this one in the bottom is this alien. There's funky paint jobs and all sorts of graffiti, and just these were the ones that are used as incentive tokens for the community. Yeah, so again, you can check out this collection, and this is basically the root of the idea that you can use NFTs as community alignment incentives, and this kind of proved to me that thesis could work. So I've kept my supply of different artistic tokens pretty scarce until about 2 weeks ago. So for the past year, I've been working on another project. Kind of from everything I learned about doing Drive, I was like, I need to figure out a way to expand my community because Drive became almost immediately inaccessible to people because it got very popular very quickly. So I started thinking, how do we scale creative communities? And I kind of came up with this thesis in my head. I actually tweeted it yesterday, and it will be the final slide in my presentation. But to jump ahead a bit, the thesis here is like concentric circles. So I have my one-of-one artwork, which is very high-priced and very, I've only released 10 pieces in the course of my NFT career, and that's the center circle. And then the circle that allowed more people into my community was Drive, right? And then as time went on and more people wanted to enter my artistic ecosystem, I needed to find a way to keep adding rings so that people could still have access. And my idea for this was an idea called drip drop. So how many people here are familiar with art blocks? Squiggles and, okay. So I'm very, very inspired by squiggles and ringers and fidenzas and the whole art blocks ecosystem. But I've always really wanted to figure out a way to do an ode to that ecosystem. So I decided, what if I could use the universe itself and the laws of physics as the base code for a creative project? And I've always been obsessed with taking pictures of rain hitting puddles in Times Square. And I was like, oh, well, like the rain and the lights flickering and everything changing constantly, and I have this low light camera that can shoot super high resolution images. What if I can find a way to create an art block style project that's purely photography? And so with Drip Drop, I was able to kind of do my ode to those ecosystems. But before I get into the art from that and the reverse engineering of the physics of all of it, just the last thing I want to say about this is, like, I guess I covered everything, but yeah, the last thing I'll say about this is that every Drive holder could mint Drip Drop for free. So basically, just rewarding the people who believed in you early by giving them free access to whatever the next ring of your ecosystem is going to be, I think is very important. So these are some of the shots from Drip Drop. And you can see they're very inspired by generative art, but again, they're just purely photography. These are the grails from the collection, so we auctioned off 11 grails. The total supply of this project is 1,111. I took 15,000 pictures of puddles over the course of, again, 7 years. As you know, I wasn't planning to make it an NFT project 7 years ago, but I've been collecting this stuff for a very, very long time. And it's hard to tell, but these are like beautifully high resolution, and there's a lot of detail in here. You can see drops popping off every puddle and all the color mixing and stuff like that. So the challenge here was how do I get properties and rarity out of still photographs? So I worked with an incredible company called Transient Labs, Ben Strauss Photography. You should look them up as well. I'm blown away by what they're building. They're a smart contract company and so much more. They're 2 aeronautical engineers from NASA who left their jobs to pursue Solidity development, and they're just incredible. And they came up with a concept: what if we use machine vision to read all these properties from all the images and then put that in a CSV, and that becomes the rarity systems. So like basically reading the emergent properties of photography in order to create a beautiful bell curve of rarity. So there's a couple ways that we did this. One is that they rewrote an algorithm that self-driving cars use, and they trained it to only count every time a drop hit a puddle. So one of the properties that is our rarity is the drop count. And you can't see it on the screen, unfortunately, because it's a little too small, but each one of those little boxes has a confidence score on if that's a real ripple or not, right? And above a certain threshold, we count it in our rarity, and that is one way to create a distribution. The next thing we did was we ran a threshold function and basically created a color batching system. So just like Chromie Squiggles, which I'm very, very inspired by again, shout out to Snowfro, we were able to have an entire color spectrum rarity. So like we have primary, tertiary, or secondary and tertiary color batching. The next thing we did was the ratio of shadow versus light. And so again, that's bucketed from 1 to 10%, 10 to 20%, all the way up to 100. And that creates another distribution. And then the last one we did was entropy and chaos. So they wrote another algorithm that can kind of tell the interruption of color sequences and the interruption of the values of shadow and light in order to create another distribution of rarity. And all combined, these come up with a very incredible mix of different rarities. And people in the community are having a lot of fun trading and figuring out what they want and what they like, and also their aesthetic sensibilities. So again, this is a very small section of the project. There's over 1,000 of these, and I just wanted to show what it looks like all together. So you can look that up as well. I'll briefly play this. I don't know if do we have audio? So this talks a bit about what we wanted to build.
The world we live in is a beautiful thing. It is infinitely detailed and deep. Its mysteries span from the tiniest subatomic particles to the unimaginable expanses of distant space. Everything we see, everything we experience, is bound together by an intricate code. We exist in this fractal unfolding, a complex swirl of circumstance, light, time, space, matter, and vibrating energy. To be a photographer is to study these intricate overlaps of the laws of physics, to marvel at the astounding beauty that is constantly unfolding around us. To be the one that decides when to freeze an instant so that we may look even deeper, together, at the generative artwork of a universe unraveling. Every action we take is a drop on the surface of space and time, and these ripples echo back from distant shores. Drip Drop is my ode to this beauty, an ode to those echoes, to the overlaps of nature and civilization. It is an ode to light, an ode to life, and an ode to love. Drip Drop.
Cool. So yeah, we were able to sell out this collection, and I was able to expand my community. And I'm going to get to the last slide because I only have a little bit of time left. But again, you can just look this up on OpenSea or DM me, and I can tell you more about it. Now, to wrap it up, what I was able to realize through doing all of this stuff is that each one of these rings I'm building of people that want to be invested in my artistic ecosystem, they all feed each other. And it goes back and forth, right? And it's like almost this artistic organism we're all building together. So the people who collect Drip Drop are now looking at my more expensive one-of-ones, and there's kind of a goal to get into Drive or to get deeper into the circle. And the people that are in my inner circle that believed in me from the beginning have had free access to Drive and free access to Drip Drop, and these things kind of feed each other back and forth. So again, I just tweeted this. If you want to steal a copy of it, share it. It's definitely like an open source idea, and it's just something I'm thinking through in real time with all of you. So here, I'm going to go back to that. Can I? Anyway, I think that's my time. I don't have any time for questions, unfortunately. I really wanted to, but I was not paying attention to the clock. If anyone has questions, please find me after, and I'd be happy to chat with you. I love talking about this stuff. So thank you all so much for the time. I appreciate it.